Electrocast. Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Welcome to the next edition of Missing the Point. Today we are talking all things hockey. It is playoff season. It is Bruins time. And for that, we have a special guest in the building. You can hear him on ESPN+. You can see him on the Bleacher Report and on the Believe Network and on 91.5. And we'll get to that at towards the end of the show. He is a Bruin enthusiast like myself. And once again, he knows all things Bruins. We may sprinkle a little Celtics in there too at the end, because I know he's a supporter of the Celtics. But Shukri Wrights, man, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Good morning, and thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be on the podcast with you. And before we get rolling, I just wanted to say this real quick. And we didn't talk about it like prior to the recording of the podcast, but today of the podcast recording, it's a day of major significance. It's exactly 10 years ago today that the Boston Marathon bombing happened here in the city of Boston. And although we're excited for the Celtics playoff push to begin and the Bruins playoff to begin on Monday, I couldn't start the podcast without talking about that as well as offering an opportunity to remember the victims of the bombing and those who lost their lives that day 10 years ago today. So I just wanted to tip my, not just so much tip my hat, but show a great deal of love and solidarity with the city of Boston, and as well as those who lived through that time period, and as well as those who still demonstrate a great deal of resilience and strength in dealing with such a tragic day that was 10 years ago today.
Yeah, no, I'm actually glad that you started with that. That would have slipped my mind. I was actually living in Miami at the time when I remember someone pulling me aside and say, "Yo, like, something happened in your hometown." I'm like, what are you talking about? And we saw the news and the reports that came out that it happened during the Boston Marathon, and I still get chills from watching David Ortiz's speech when he was like, our Jersey City don't say Red Sox, it says Boston. This is our bleeping city, and no one's going to dictate our freedom. Like that is still, it's still something that resonates in my mind heavy. And obviously, we know what that season was sports-wise for the Red Sox that year. But more importantly, like I said, the resiliency, like I said, that people showed, the camaraderie that people showed after that was very warming to see. And once again, like I said, thoughts and prayers always go out to those families. And like I said, I hope that they're in a better space now than they were at that time a decade ago. So that's an excellent start to this. So like I mentioned in the intro, we're getting into all things Bruins. If you've been living under a rock, you have missed one hell of a season. For those that have listened to the show, they know I'm a security guard at TD Garden, and yes, they have gone 65-12-5, breaking the all-time wins record, breaking the all-time points record that was held by Montreal back in the late 70s. I looked at those numbers. I said, man, Montreal had a hell of a run in the mid to late 70s. So
they were a dynasty, and
for sure. So it was cool to see that happen. So just with that record being what it was, and obviously, of course, everyone agrees on Bruins Twitter that it was a great record, right? Of course, right? No one disagrees that 65 wins it doesn't matter. Of course, they would never disagree that the record was not cool, right?
Of course.
I saw you tweet about that. I was like, man, I said you sound just like me. Cause I feel the same way. I'm like, yo, like embrace the moment, embrace the moment. Be happy that they got the record. Yes, we know there's more. Yes, we don't want just the President's Cup. We want the Stanley Cup. We get that. But learn to live in the moment and be present. That being said, so I want to go back to the off season. So like in September, bringing back Krejci, having Bergeron come back, for another year, presumably, just how did that help set the tone for what they were going to do going into the season?
Rayshawn, I don't think that those two particular moves like were like the foundation of the season that has been for the Boston Bruins. And I know there are a lot of you that's going to be like, well, shoot, what are you talking about? There was an exceptional article written by I believe her name, Emily Benjamin of NHL.com.
Mm-hmm.
And she made this point, and this point is 100% worthy of discussion, because I am a person that likes to look at the big picture as part of the big story. If you're going to talk about this season, and if you're going to talk about like just how historic it has been up until this point, and as I mentioned with the Stanley Cup playoffs beginning on Monday, you can't start with September. You actually got to start with late July. And the reason why I say that is because as Emily Benjamin explained in the column, which you can find on NHL.com, she talked about there was a wedding that took place in Italy in which a lot of the Bruin players and as well as some of the former Bruin players were invited. They attended. I believe in that photo, from what I remember, David Krejci was in that photo. Pasternak was in that photo. Torrey Krug was invited. He was in that, I believe, was also there as well. But there were several other guys from the Bees that were there, and as well as Tuukka Rask and company as well. And it was pointed out that like things began to crystallize, because even at that point, at the time of the photo, it wasn't guaranteed just yet. It was just a little bit before Krejci announced his decision to return to the Boston Bruins, return back to the NHL. So when that happened, and as well as obviously the news of Patrice Bergeron returning back for another year, I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is a start, but the Boston Bruins still have some major question marks. Because at that time, again, I want everything that I say and everything that I talk about, in case if the Bruins do win the Stanley Cup in 2 months, if they do, I want every single moment to be documented the way that it is and taking everything for what it's worth with context.
Yeah. So
I remember going back to August, and I made this point on Twitter at the time, and I was saying, listen, this Bruins team has a lot of question marks. Bruce Cassidy, that firing was very controversial. I was angry about that firing. And when the Bruins decided to hire Jim Montgomery, for me, that was the first time where it was like, okay, I'm actually curious to see like what kind of head coach Jim Montgomery is, what kind of effect can he have on this Bruins team that is laden with veterans. I mean, yes, you have the young core of like Charlie McAvoy and Brandon Carlo and David Pasternak and company as well. Yes, you have that young core of guys, but I wanted to see like what kind of approach was Jim Montgomery going to have as a head coach with the roster in itself. Was he going to shake up things, or what is he going to say, hey, you know what? Why not we refine things a bit? So I was really curious, and even then, like there was no guarantees, there was no signs of what was to come. And what I find most fascinating when I think about it now, here we are in mid-April. When I think back to last fall, I think back to last September during training camp. I think of, okay, what was the Bruins going to get in net between Linus, Ullmark, and Jeremy Swayman? Because again, that was not a guarantee that they were going to get the season that they've gotten from Linus Ullmark, and that he would become the goaltender that he's become, or that Jeremy Swayman would take another big step in his development as a young netminder. There was no guarantees at all. So I say all of that because last September, no one knew. I didn't even know. I didn't even know what to truly expect and what was going to come of this team. And the thing that caught my eye early on was when they got off to, if I remember correctly, 11-3. There was 11-3 start.
Mm-hmm.
And that caught my eye. I was like, okay, maybe it's just a hot streak to start the season. Because, like, you know, teams like to get off to good starts. And, you don't really think much of anything of it. But, and I talked about this on Twitter again. And those who follow me on Twitter at Shukri Wrights, you can find it in the tweets because it's there. Although I have tens of thousands of tweets, but it's there. I said that the game that told me that there is something different about this team, and I will forever have this circled on my mind, in the calendar, the proverbial calendar and literal calendar, is November 1st, 2022. You go back to that night. They were playing the Penguins. Bruins roared out to an early lead, 2-1, and it fell apart. They're down 5-2. And I was pissed. I was pissed off. I was frustrated with things that fell apart the way that it did in that game. And to see that team come back the way that it did and tying the game, and then Hampus Lindholm winning the game in overtime. And they won it 6-5. Now, they're off to a hot start, and now you have that kind of game. Mm-hmm. That caught my attention. Like, I don't know what just happened, but there's something to this team. I don't know what it is. It's still very early. At the time, it was early.
Yep.
But I started to realize and started to think, shoot, there may be something with this team here. Like, we have to wait and see. And then also the second inkling was the home winning streak to start the year, which had never been done in the history of the NHL. And I made, there was a tweet that I pointed out to, in which the only other team, for what I could remember, that got off to an historic start at home prior to the Bruins was to 2012-2013 Chicago Blackhawks. Although it was a 48-game season, it was shortened because of the strike. Mm-hmm. But they got off to such a monster start at home, and they went on to win the cup.
Right. I guess that's
and 10 years later, no one could have foreseen the Bruins. No one who was an honest, forthright person could honestly say they could have foreseen what the Bruins would end up becoming. Nobody. I mean, nobody. Right. Not even myself.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, I mean, what Will said. I think this is definitely similar to what we saw. I mean, I know that you're a Yankee fan. I know that I follow you. So, but, you know, when the rest, actually, the Yankees won 100 games that year, too, in 2018.
2018, yeah. That's a great, I made that comparison myself as well on Twitter. Like, this team has got 2018 vibes of the Red Sox. Like, they were the most dominant team in the sport, not just in the sport of baseball, that entire 2018 season.
Yeah, so I think that's where, and once again, they'll have some hiccups. Like, I mean, I know they're playing Florida in the first round. Obviously, they should be Florida. They should be most of the day face, but you know, but we'll get into that breakdown shortly. But I think for me, just as someone who, like I said, became a bit more invested now that I'm working there and seeing how they played, I think the game for me actually was when they faced Colorado at home, right? I don't remember the score, but I know they ended up winning it. And Colorado fans were in there. They were in there that night. They were there because, you know, they're the defending champs. And, you know, they was like, oh, you know, we got work from y'all. We won. So they were talking crazy in there. And I remember being on the 7th floor after we won.
For those that don't know, that's the 311th seating.
Yeah, that's that right. Yeah, right. 311th. So I was like, see you in June. See y'all in June. I said, this team, I said, this team is ready. I said, we're healthy. I said, see you in June. I said, y'all are very good. I said, we're very good. I said, see you in June. So we beat them. I was like, oh, okay. Like, they are on par with the team that just won it. So, and like I said, they were damn near, well, they were unbeatable at home for a long stretch. So
Yeah.
It just didn't matter who was coming in there. It was just like either we're gonna win 5-2, and that I think that's what was so I think refreshing to me to see as a fan. Like they could beat you 5-2, but it was going to beat you 2-1. Either way, they were going to find a way. And I think their aggressiveness when they're in their zone to score. Like I said, we'll get into that too. Like I think that's where they set themselves apart. That if they're getting 35 to 40 shots on goal and you're getting 25 to 26, most likely with the amount of scores that this team has, you're going to lose. You're going to lose most likely, whether it's Pastrnak, whether it's Krejci, whether it's Orlov has as much goals, but he's a hell of a playmaker. That pass he had the other night was phenomenal,
especially as a blue liner at that.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So that there's many ways that they can beat you, and they showed that early on. So yes, I agree that Pittsburgh game definitely was a game that stuck out because it was like, oh, okay, they're being the same Bruins again. That's what people started to think. It was like, okay, here we go. This is what they're blowing leads. The hot start didn't matter, whatever. Excuse me. And then they showed everything. And that's kind of been a theme really all year. But they've had some other comeback wins and you're like, oh, like, how did they even get to they were down 3-1 and they ended up winning 4-3. Like, how did that happen? they just find and they just find a way. And like I said, that ties back to the goaltending as you mentioned. But you brought up the coach briefly. Obviously, like you said, Bruce Cassidy left and over
he didn't leave. He was fired.
Got fired. And obviously, I feel like players have been going on a tirade saying that, but basically the younger players like, oh, he didn't care for us. And, he didn't nurture us the way we need to be nurtured. Da, da, da. So, obviously Jim Montgomery comes in. Obviously they have, like I said, they get the best record of all time. So just, what do you think, if there was any, what adjustments do you think Jim Montgomery made in order for them to get to this level this year? It wasn't like they were bad before, but just what did you see from him from a coaching standpoint that got them in position to be this successful so far?
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
I have to say that the elevated play of the blue line, I got to start there. And you can also talk about the depth of like the scoring from all four lines. But I want to start with the blue line because what I noticed, especially from Jim Montgomery, is that his system has impacted the blue line in such a way that I think the biggest beneficiary of that change, in my opinion, was Hampus Lindholm. Hampus Lindholm at one point led the NHL in the plus minus rating. At one point I think he has a plus 30. I don't know if he finished the season still on top of the NHL, but he was definitely up there for sure. And Hampus Lindholm, and what's amazing about him is that when we acquired him a year ago, we knew that the guy was a pretty solid defenseman in Anaheim, but because of where he played, it kind of got lost in the shuffle because Anaheim hadn't really been competitive over the last few years. And in fact, this season, they just fired their head coach, Dallas Eakins, just about a day or so ago. And you didn't really get to appreciate and watch just how good Hampus Lindholm is. And unfortunately, he got injured last year in the first round against Carolina in the series that the Bruins would end up losing in 7, unfortunately. But this year with John Montgomery, you saw a defenseman like Lindholm, and obviously, we're not forgetting about Charlie McAvoy, who continues to get better year after year after year, and he's only 25. But going back to Lindholm, you saw that this is a defenseman that can pretty much dominate in almost pretty much every facet of the game: passing, ability to run a power play, to be a vital part of a power play. And I thought of it as if there was player that was going to benefit from it the most on the blue line, it was going to be Hampus Lindholm. Now, as far as the scoring depth from the forward group is concerned, I was amazed when I started to see how that third line especially was going to gel and come together the way that it has, especially with Taylor Hall, who is no slouch by any stretch of the imagination. The man is a former NHL MVP winner. He won it with the Devils back in 2017, 2018. No one could have foreseen that. Number one, Taylor Hall bought in wholeheartedly and said, you know what? I'll do it. I'll do it. That third line probably was the best third line in the league. We talking about Hall. We talking about Charlie Coyle, who has had a renaissance of a year. And a lot of it has to do with the defensive zone faceoffs that he's been able to win, which has been huge. And as well as having Nick Foligno, who is on his way back from injury. So that third line has absolutely been a monstrous part of the success of the Boston Bruins. And there was a conversation that was had on a different podcast, on a different platform, in which that you go look at the importance historically of the bottom six, but especially your third line. Your third line oftentimes has played a vital role in helping a team win the Stanley Cup. And for me, the example that I used was, I think back to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who unfortunately will miss the playoffs for the first time in 16 years, which is really hard to believe. You go back to when they won back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2016 and 2017. Who was the biggest player on that third line for the Pittsburgh Penguins? Phil Kessel. And I at one point was saying, you know what, the Bruins can use a guy like Phil Kessel.
Right.
Imagine that. Imagine Phil Kessel playing on that third line with Coyle and Taylor Hall. Yeah. So
Sagan wasn't a third liner, but Sagan too. He goes to Dallas. They do their thing over there. So it's
he didn't go to Dallas. He was traded on not to split hairs, but that story is that's a whole different topic for another day. But yeah, in terms of the vital role that Taylor Hall has played on that third line cannot be understated. And then also, you talk about that top line, and we talk about the top six. Mm-hmm. For the last few years, prior to last year, we all have known about the perfection line: Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak. And I said this on Twitter. Mm-hmm. In 2019, that was the Bruins' fatal flaw, amongst the other one being they had no sort of nastiness in their game. Chara was towards the end of his career. It was unfair for him to constantly expect him to be the guy to answer the bell for the team constantly. They didn't have that. They have that now with this team in spades. In Hathaway, they have that with Foligno. They have that with Tyler Bertuzzi. They have that with Trent Frederick. This team is absolutely nasty, and they're not afraid to drop the gloves and get real physical. Yeah. So you look back to the top six, and you talk about how they were a one-line team once upon a time. Putting Jake DeBrusk on that top line with Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron has been an absolute game changer. This is the first year that I believe, in my opinion, that you've seen Jake DeBrusk play at a consistent level night in and night out. There was never a question about his effort. There was never a question about his ability to play at a high level. There was never a question about his back checking. There was no questions at all. There was literally no worries about him. Like, yeah, we know that he could be a streaky player, but his consistent play has been there on every night that he's been healthy. Although he did miss a significant amount of time with that leg injury that he sustained in the Winter Classic, but if he didn't miss that time, he's definitely a 30-goal scorer. That's how good he's been this year for the Boston Bruins. And you talk about that second line, and we cannot talk about this 2022-23 Boston Bruins team without talking about that second line, because I think it would be an absolute crime if we didn't. You talk about the return of Krejci. Mm-hmm. That was huge. start there. He probably had the quietest 50-plus point campaign that I can remember probably in recent memory. Like, he was just very quiet, very unassuming. He came in, and then not only that, Krejci asked to be on that same line with David Pastrnak. And it was something that didn't happen often under Bruce Cassidy. And then you have another Czechia native who was traded to the Boston Bruins in the Eric Hollandale and Pavel Zacha, who, by the way, was given a multi-year contract extension to remain with as part of the Bruins.
Deserved it.
And you talk about that second line, the Czech line. I can't remember the last time I've been genuinely excited for a second line the top six, the team is so bleeping deep that you can nitpick. The fourth line, hell, the fourth line has been absolutely phenomenal. Thomas Nosek has been terrific. And Garner Hathaway has fit in
like dirty too, though. The last 2 games when they've had him be more of a focal point because they was giving guys rest, like he in the first few seconds, oh, what's up? I'm out here. So
yeah,
it doesn't matter from line 1 to line 4. Like, it doesn't matter who's out there.
Doesn't matter.
They're ready to go. And like that part's huge. But keep going.
And then like also in continuation, like you talk about AJ Greer in that fourth line, and you talk. I mean, the fourth line in itself is it's been so deep, and I was just that this team is just so deep. It doesn't matter like which line you want to focus on, but that second line with that Czech line with Zacha, Krejci, and Pasta, magic. And then you're getting a healthy Krejci for the playoffs, at least close to 100%. And we know his pedigree come the playoffs. I expect nothing less than greatness during the Stanley Cup playoff run.
He ends up taking a step back though, right? Because I mean, we just spoke about how great each line has been and who's been key contributor. So obviously Hall just came back with a few games left in the regular season. You mentioned that Foligno, so we're coming back. Well, Foligno reminds me of Lucic a little bit, and so it's ironic that he also wears number 17. That thing he has gain as far as like the toughness goes. So you have Hall coming back, Foligno coming back, and then the 2 guys they traded for at the deadline or right before the deadline, Dmitry Orlov and Tyler Bertuzzi from Detroit. So just speak to how I love the fact that they went and got those guys. I think it would have been very easy to say we have the best record in hockey. We don't have any holes right now. Like you mentioned, like they had a lot of holes coming into the year. Like they clearly were beating the brakes off everyone. He had his best goalies in the league. It'd have been very easy to say, let's rest on our morals. Let's not stir the pot at all. Let's just wait for these guys to get healthy and then just see what we can do.
Rashawn, I stop for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I want all of you to give Rashawn his flowers because I'm serious, because that point right there, I think if the Bruins win the Stanley Cup, and we're gonna give Don Sweeney his credit where it's deserved, but that part there about not wanting to stir up the pot, and that was something that was talked about. It was something that was talked about when the Bruins made these deals. Would these moves impact the chemistry of this Bruins locker room? That was a major question and concern, and rightfully so. The answer has been this. It's actually made this. You thought this team couldn't be any more closer than what it is. It's got even more closer, even more of a tight knit. Like it's just been like, and I think I'm saying this. Give this man his flowers, or give Rashawn his flowers, because that point is so damn important for teams to go on to win the Stanley Cup. Chemistry and cohesiveness. It's so critical, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because there was no guarantees that these moves were going to work. There was no guarantees that Dmitry Orlov was going to pan out the way that he's panned out as a Boston Bruin. There was no guarantee that Garnet Hathaway was going to work out as well. He's worked out so far, and being a local guy from Maine. And there was no guarantee that Tyler Bertuzzi would end up being here And the only reason why the Bruins went out and got Tyler Bertuzzi was because Nick Foligno went down with injury. That's the only reason why. Yeah. And Don Sweeney said, you know what? I'm not going to sit on my thumbs. I'm not going to sit here and twiddle my thumbs and just be passive. We are going to go and be aggressive. And they went out and they got Tyler Bertuzzi, and I said this on the day that they made this move. And I was laughing. I was like, guys, the Bruins just got a guy who is a 2-time 20-goal scorer, a guy who's a 30-goal scorer, and he had a bad luck of injuries this season prior to the trade, even last season as well. Dude, you got a stud and a guy who is known for being a pest?
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. Come on. Like, what else needs to be said that hasn't been said already? Go ahead.
No, I mean, no, like that part is huge. And I think, once again, I felt like, ownership in the city gets a bad rap for just not always going forward, because they feel like, well, if we have the money or we have the team, that's
especially the Bruins, specifically the Bruins. Oh yeah,
right, exactly. I think you have to. And my thing is, my philosophy, I'm going for it every time. I'm not going to sit there and sit. Once again, you can handle whatever you need to handle in the off season. If you need to move money there, like you can do so. The only thing is just when you get into the off season, it's just who ends up being the guy that you pay.
I
think it becomes a bit easier, obviously, if they win, because either guys will take pay cuts, or if somebody doesn't produce the way they thought they were going to produce in the postseason, then you can kind of let them go. I do think that you keep Orlov and Bertuzzi. I just think that if you're looking to maintain the dominance going forward, because listen, you're not going to be 65.
It's not going to be easy.
It's not going to be easy, but
no, it's not going to be easy to keep both. Although I would love for that to happen, but I don't think it's going to be easy because the Bruins are really up against it in terms of the cap. They don't know if Krejci or Bergeron is going to come back again next week. There's no guarantees at all.
I think Bergeron goes out on top if they win. It
wouldn't surprise me if that were the case. I agree.
And, once again, as a fan, once again, he came in 20 years ago. And
it's hard to believe.
We at that time, Joe Thornton was the guy, and obviously they didn't do. They had some moments in the mid 2000s, but they weren't a team that didn't do anything really until 2011. So this core has been together for a long time. And remember the loss to Philly. Remember, then obviously they win the next year, and then the loss to the Blackhawks. And so they've had this run. So I think he goes on top. But I do, and this is not all this is a hot take. I think this has been said elsewhere, but maybe Taylor Hall is the guy that ends up leaving if that's the case. Because once again, I feel like you don't bring those guys in to be rentals, especially with Bertuzzi. I mean, I know Orlov is low over 30, but Bertuzzi is in his late 20s, so I think he just turned 28. So to me, you're looking to get younger.
In the prime of his career at that,
prime of that. So I just think, to me, if you're looking to stay young, looking to stay athletic, I just think he is someone that should be a part of the future, especially when he's produced. I can see if he came in, it was an absolute dud, but the fact that he's come in, he's produced, he's had some goals here, has some great assists to Pasternak and others. So I just think, once again, you've added to the chemistry. Once again, that's part of the best part of being a GM. It's hard to keep everybody, but I think that they already did the right thing with signing Pasternak. They did the right thing with re-signing Zacha. So yeah, I think there's still some other moves that need to be made to maintain this level of greatness, not just now.
Sean, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I keep hearing sounds outside of my apartment window. Sounds like vuvuzelas. It was becoming a little too distracted. I'm like,
gotcha.
I heard it once and I'm like, okay. But it was like, I'm like, what the hell is that?
They're ringing the alarm saying the Bruins are coming.
Listen, I like to think it's either that or probably geese or something. It was
right.
I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, yo.
Right.
Like I'm sitting here like trying to listen and not be too distracted, and I'm like, what the hell?
Right.
Like, gotta love Saturday mornings.
No, you're good. No. So I want to get to the goaltending, right? Because you alluded to it earlier in the show. So obviously, signing Ullmark a couple of years ago, I think people were kind of like, he's been a journeyman, not someone that's been great in his previous stop. So what's going to be different here? And obviously, back up to Tuukka Rask, and I think people in the city had a love-hate relationship with Tuukka Rask because There was moments when he stood on his head and was as good as anyone we've seen. You know, you think about Martin Brodeur, you think about Patrick Waugh back in the day, like he was on that level at times. So I think that to have Ullmark did what he did, and then for Swayman, I think Ullmark was first in save percentage for a while, and Swayman was right there at number 3, if not 5 at times. So just give a little deeper dive into how that play kind of set up everything else, because obviously you can have a 50-goal scorer, you can have a 30-goal scorer, you can have guys that have plenty of assists, but if you have guys that can't stop the puck, you know, your success may be limited. So just speak to Swayman in particular, how he's really made that leap, and just what do you expect from both of them in the playoffs?
Honestly, I think that in itself has been not the biggest story in the NHL this season. I said it early on that I felt that going back to like November-ish, that Linus Ullmark was having a very Tim Thomas-esque type of season at that time.
Right. I
was right, because the man just tied Tim Thomas in terms of save percentage in a single season. And I also said this the other day, in which that there's only one thing left for him to do, because he's going to win the Vezina. And despite the fact that people that are, you know, involved in the voting process, they're trying to come up with reasons why he shouldn't win the Vezina, blah, 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 and which I think is complete BS.
Clickbait.
Like,
that's all it is. Clickbait.
Like it's like it's gonna be Linus. It's gonna be Ullmark. It's truly not debatable. One Islander fan in particular, and I'm not gonna disparage the guy because he's a cool dude and he's a good friend of mine. He tried to make a point. Oh, it should be Ilya Sorokin. I'm like, stop it, dude. Any other year, yeah, maybe. Now this year, no. Like, dude, stop. You're, and there were Bruin fans literally arguing with him. I'm like, buddy, you're wrong. It's not to say that Sorokin won't be a finalist. He'll be a Vezina finalist, but the award 100% should, and I think it will go to Linus Ullmark. Yeah. And I thought about this in thinking about the tandem between Ullmark and Swayman, because going into the year, who was expected to be the number 1 guy? Swayman. In 2010, 2011, who was expected to be the number 1 guy?
So was Tuukka already there?
Tuukka was already there.
So it was Tuukka, because he was a young guy coming. I was always about to date myself.
He was a young guy like it was up and coming goalie at that time, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But
OG take over.
Tim Thomas came into training camp healthy, because he was not healthy by the end of the 2009-2010 season. He was not. He was banged up. Like, his hips were giving him problems. He came back, and we all know how that story went. Linus Ullmark came into training camp and basically said, you know what? I am going to play my arse off and dominate. And basically took and ran with it. And Swayman, you got to give them a lot of credit between the two goalies. There was no rift. There was no animosity. There was no, I should be playing more. There was more like, those two, they have talked about openly their incredible bond that they had. Mm-hmm. And they've talked about how and I love that, because it's not fake. It's not forced. It's genuine. You see it in the goalie hug.
I love that celebration they do.
Like that goalie hug after every win. Oh my God. It's beautiful. Yeah. Like, it's just like, what more can you possibly ask for? And I was saying about Ullmark in terms of, like, just forget the numbers. I mean, I could sit here and spit out like numbers and whatnot. Mm. Like he won 40 games, blah blah blah, and Swayman won, I think, like 20 games or something like that as a backup and whatnot. Yeah. It's remarkable when you have the best goaltending tandem in the league, what you can do. It helps, because you have someone that's literally right behind you say, hey, I can do the job if you ever get hurt. Mm-hmm. Hey, there's not going to be a slip up or like a steep decline from the starter to the backup. There hasn't. That's part of the reason why the Bruins have been able to win as many games as they did. It's because it didn't matter who was in that. Between Ullmark and Swayman, both guys got the job done more times than not. Swayman ended the year after like January 1st as being among the league leaders in save percentage, and I believe
he went up to number 3. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
So, what does that tell you?
Yeah, no, I think that obviously, that's what a veteran leadership does. I think that it would have been very easy to say, I'm the guy. I don't care to build with you. I don't care to, because like you're here to take my job eventually. But understanding that, together we can, and we are stronger together than we are apart, and that's exactly what's happened. So I want to get into some more stuff as far as what they do on the ice. So I think they ended up creeping back into the top 10 when it came to power play percentage, but they had been teetering between kind of 14th, 15th, kind of in between the middle of the league. So is their power play, they cleaned it up a little bit lately, but is the power play something that we should be concerned about as fans going into the playoffs? And they went up to the top 10, but for a while they were at 14th, 15th for a while, but not really, taking advantage of those opportunities.
That was a concern of mine as recently as 2 weeks ago today. Power play. Because I talked about this in a tweet. I don't know if you saw or if you didn't. I don't know. But I literally talked about this in this tweet. By the end of December, early January, the Bruins were number 2 in the NHL in power play, behind who, the Edmonton Oilers. They were number 2.
Yeah.
And the power play had sagged so much that they went from number 2 to being in the middle of the pack in the NHL on the man advantage. And there were a lot of Bruin fans, and I may have been guilty myself once upon a time, of saying, well, the power play wasn't that great in 2011. Look what they got then. But there was an article in which you can pull up and find on NBCSportsBoston.com, and when they talked about the importance of having a pretty good power play. It's actually really important for teams that have recently won the Stanley Cup, including Colorado last year. You have to have a pretty damn good power play. And the thing that has me the most encouraged about the Bruins power play is that this is a power play over the last couple of weeks that's actually gotten really hot.
Yeah.
That has gotten better. And that is what you need for the players, because listen, 5-on-5 scoring is important. We know this full and well as Bruin fans. But you have a cooking power play that could score. Game changer. Absolute game changer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, like I said, once that's gone up the last couple of weeks, I think, and I'm pretty sure they've talked about it behind the scenes, obviously. Like, they know that was a wrinkle that had to get changed going into the playoffs. So whether it's you're making a new play design, whether it's, you are getting someone in the center of the ice and then, making that right play. And like I said, I don't know if this was on a power play or not, but I think about the goal that Pastrnak scored the other night against, in fact, I think it was against Montreal because it was on the road. That pass that Orlov had to Pastrnak deep in the zone was a thing of beauty.
Oh, yeah.
The goalie was like, he was out there like he didn't know which way to go. And I was just like, yeah. You got someone on, no pun, well, pun intended. When you got someone on skates like that and they wobbling like that, like it's game over. So I'm hoping to see more of that, because once again, when you have that many guys that can put the puck in net, like, it should be something where you're in the top 5, because it should become easy and teams should start to fold because they know, damn, Shaq can do it, Zakin can do it, Bergeron can do it. Like, it can come from every which way. So there's no one person they got to key in on when they have that man advantage, because they know, okay, it can come from anywhere, literally at any given time. So transition to who they're playing, right? So they play the Florida Panthers in the first round. So like I said, we've given a breakdown of what Boston does well and what they may need to improve on. So just speak to what Florida Panthers have done well. I know obviously their record is nowhere near what the rumors are, but clearly they're in the playoffs, so they have some type of talent there. So just what do they do well, and what can they do that might be able to exploit the Bruins if possible in the series?
To be frank with you, Panthers are red hot. They're dangerous. Like, they have been on some sort of a tear the last couple of weeks in which that they were able they were finally able to overcome or overtake, I should say, the Pittsburgh Penguins And you can definitely thank the Penguins' inconsistencies all year long for that as well. But the Panthers, as far as I'm concerned, their goalie, Alex Lyons, that kid could play. I mean, it's early, but he's showing you something that really, in my opinion, it could definitely open up a lot of eyes. And I think there was one Bruin fan that I saw that commented on one of my videos and said, Bruins in 4. I'm like, you will be horrifically mistaken to underestimate this Panther team, because this is no bum of a Panther team at all. Like, this is a Panther team that, yes, they made the big trade during the offseason. They got Matthew Tkachuk, that they compliment guys like the captain Alexander Barkov, who is one of the most like underappreciated and undervalued players in the NHL, and he also a guy who also has won the Selke Award as well as the best defensive forward in the game. But then also, even though that they traded away Jonathan Huberdeau and Eric Weegar to the Calgary Flames, this is a Panthers team that, in my opinion, could really pose as some problems against the Bruins. Do I think the Panthers could win the series? I would be shocked if they do, but I do think the Bruins will win the series in 6, and I do think that this series is going to come down to puck bounces. Like, which way will it bounce? Will it bounce the Bruins way? Will it bounce the Panthers way? But it's going to be a pretty good series. I really do believe that. So the Panthers, the goaltending, I definitely think could be a story in this series. I do think that their power play could be one of intrigue, because you just don't know how it's going to go. But I also do think that for the Panthers, if they are going to win this series, they need, and I can't stress this enough, but they absolutely need their support guys to be able to come up huge for them. Because if they're able to come up huge, it is going to pay a world of a difference for this Panthers team that you could say by the skin of their hair that they actually were able to squeeze their way into the playoffs, which makes them all the more dangerous. Which is why I look at guys like Verhaeghe, as well as I mentioned Matthew Tkachuk as well, but as well as Sam Reinhart, who's a 30-goal scorer himself. I think in itself, like, this is a dangerous Panthers team that, like I said, they can definitely pose some problems for the Boston Bruins as well.
So yeah, no. So that's so if we are to get to the finals, who would you want to see out west? I have an answer, but I want to see who you think you would want to see out west.
It's not even about who I want to see, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Colorado made it back to the finals again.
Okay.
Colorado has been the hottest team in the West since the turn of the new year. And you were talking about them earlier about it was one of the games that really
stood out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that stood out. They were banged up at that time. They obviously will be without Gabriel Landeskog for the season. He had surgery on his knee back in October, and he just is not ready. He's not right. He will not be playing in the postseason, unfortunately. However, Colorado has shown me a lot, especially in the last couple of months, in terms of just their resolve. That's really the one word and the right word that comes to mind for me. They have had such an amazing resolve to them that despite the injuries and despite all that has gone on with the organization this past year, I mean, the organization has gone through a lot with the sad passing of Peter McNabb, their on the TV broadcaster. Yeah, that definitely impacted the organization. They've been able to find a way to persevere through, and yeah, I think Colorado for me is that team in the West that would not surprise me in the slightest bit if they get back to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Just what if we had the Bruce Cassidy Bowl? I know Vegas made the playoffs, so
I'm not
be back because I remember when he came back. I think it was December 5th when they came back here in December. I mean, the crowd had been on fire all year, but that crowd was out for blood.
Oh, absolutely.
And for him to go back and forth, we come back to tie the game, and then they end up winning or whatever. And that to me would be theater like personified. So yes, I think from an analytical standpoint, from a talent standpoint, yes, it makes sense that Colorado will come back with them being the defending champs. But I think just from a narrative standpoint, it would be beautiful. It'd be beautiful if we face Vegas in the finals, and either, I mean, once again, I want us to be victorious, but I just think that would be, I know he'd be extra motivated. I mean, he knows just about everybody on the damn team. So I think that's what we saw happen, right? Like, he knew, what sets they want to get in. He knew, where to break down on defense was. So I think that's why they were able to kind of, get in there and beat us when they came up here before. So yeah, like I said, from a narrative standpoint, it'd be dope to see that in the finals. But like I said, I agree with you, because like I said, I told the Colorado fans, I was like, yeah, we'll see you in June, because I firmly believe that. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that all unfolds. Like, as long as that guy and that Edmonton don't get there, that dude is
Connor McDavid's Connor McDavid, he's having the year of his life. I mean, there's no denying that at all. Like, he's going to win the MVP, but it's definitely going to be amazing to see what he does in the playoffs.
No, love that. So, I don't think I heard you say it. So I just want, so obviously we have the Bruins beating the Panthers, but and how many games? Six games. Hey, so I know that you follow the Celtics too, so I want to just give one question on there. So in June, are both teams hosting the title in June?
I think it's possible, but, and I do mean but, the Celtics, they have to show me, and it starts today. They have to show me that they could really overcome a lot of the issues that plagued them in the early part of the second half of the season. But I do think that the Celtics surely can make another run to the NBA Finals. There's no question in my mind. But right now, the path is looking like it could very well be Atlanta, Philadelphia, Milwaukee. And it's going to be really fascinating if the Celtics do get to the conference finals, which I expect them to. I think I'm very confident in saying that. They could run into Milwaukee. And despite not having home court advantage, I'm not concerned, because this team has shown me that they can win on the road.
Oh, right.
So I'm not worried about that at all. It's more of the self-inflicted wounds. And I think also, I want to get this on the pod on record. The health of Jaylen Brown's hand is going to be a major story moving forward. Will it impact his shooting? Because in case if you haven't heard, the man sliced up his hand pretty badly when he was picking up some sort of glass or vase or whatever.
It's wild to me.
Which is really is wild, and which required multiple stitches and whatnot. So the health of his hand is going to be a big story, and his ability to dribble, not be a turnover machine, which is something that I have talked about in the past, and as well as his effectiveness shooting the basketball. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, we had talked about that on our show earlier in the week when that news broke about his hand. I know he did mention in the presser yesterday that the stitches have been removed. So it's just a matter of, just how it feels. And I guess they've been trying a few things around the hand that allows him to have the most comfort while being out there on the court. So I just think a lot of driving is going to happen. I think that if I'm DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, or whoever's guarding him, like, I'm definitely attacking and not being malicious with it, but definitely making sure.
Hand checking.
Yeah, low hand check just to make sure that that whatever protective wears around it is sufficient. So, but yeah, like I said, I got them. Like I said, at least in the conference finals as well. Like, Philadelphia does not concern me at all. Once again, to be a series, Embiid to me is the MVP.
He's gotta be. No, I wholeheartely agree.
Yeah.
Like, I saw the finalists for this year's Kia NBA MVP award. Obviously, Joker's on it. Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and as well as Joel Embiid. And I've been clamoring for Joel Embiid for the last couple of years. Like, he should be the MVP.
Yeah.
If there's a team in the West that I think that's got the most pressure on them, I genuinely feel it's Denver, because Denver, when healthy, they actually scare me with a healthy Michael Porter and as well as
Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray as well. And I just talked about Nikola Jokic. We know what he can do and whatnot. That team scares me.
Brown's been a very good piece for them too.
Yeah, like Brown has been a solid foundational piece like for them as well. So this is a Denver team that out of the West, they scare me. Like, listen, like don't underestimate the Warriors, but I feel like Denver is on a different mission this year, the Nuggets in particular in the West, but not to be outdone though. Don't forget about the Sacramento Kings. Because the Kings, there's something about this Kings team that I haven't seen since the days of Doug Christie, Mike Bibby, and as well as Chris Webber in the early 2000s. They got something cooking up in Northern California with the Kings too. So it's going to be a lot of fun, man. It's going to be interesting. These NBA playoffs, it's going to be a grab your popcorn, turn on ESPN, turn on TNT every single night, and in my opinion, outside of the Celtics, because there's some compelling basketball to be watched across these NBA playoffs.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And like I said, we can close it on that part. I think I'm excited. I can't wait. I'll be there in a few hours. So
I'll be around the Garden to watch the game as well. So
gotcha. Okay, yeah. So yeah,
I'll be around.
Well, I'm obviously they'll be on the road game 3, so I'll probably watch it at Banners. Just to get some wings over there and chill out. So
haven't decided where I'm going to watch the game yet, but I am leaning towards either one of two places. It's going to be either Hub Hall or maybe Greatest. I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll let my mood take over.
Yeah.
Like that's basically the time I'm on right now.
I'm always going to choose Banners because I just love. I want
Banners is legit, but you need a freaking reservation to get.
I know. Actually,
and that kills me.
Facts. No, I know. That's the problem because it gets. And once again, Game 3 for the Celtics and Bruins are on the same nights.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So that's gonna be a lot. I might have to go to the tavern. I don't know. We'll see. But
good lord,
that's across the street. So it's
I gotta check when is Game 3 for the Bruins and Celtics. Hold on,
Friday night, 21st.
I'm gonna look this up right now. Hold on.
21st. So. Because the Bruins play Monday, Wednesday, then Friday, and then the Celtics.
Bees. Hold on. I'm doing this live on the podcast. Don't care. No shame. So let's go Celtics. Schedule.
Yep. So yeah, they got to do that. But yeah, it's a fun time to be a sports fan for sure.
Especially a Boston sports fan. 100%. I agree.
Outside of the Red Sox currently, even though they won last night against Anaheim. I mean, sorry, I always say Anaheim. I'm always going LA, whatever, but I'm always say Anaheim. They're always going to be.
You mentioned the Bruins. You're correct. Bruins for Game 3. It's Friday night. Yeah, they're away. They are away in Florida. Celtics
in Atlanta, same night.
You're joking.
Nope, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. That it's gonna be tough. That's what I'm saying.
Hold on.
That's why I'm going to Banners to watch both.
Hold on. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. You're playing with my emotions.
I'm not, man. I wish I was.
You're playing with my emotions, sir. I don't appreciate that. You've got to be.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's like
like a complete doofus.
Yeah, man.
You're right.
Yeah,
they're playing on the same night. Oh my God.
I know.
This city is going to be turned up and then some. Like that just tells me there's my Friday night plans.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
And I'm by the way, because just real quick, I'm Muslim.
And
there's a strong chance that the Eid, which is to celebrate the end of Ramadan, could be Friday. I'm gonna be lit all day Friday. I'm serious. I'm gonna be lit. Hey. I'm gonna celebrate Eid during the day and all night. Yep. And I got Bruins and Celtics to watch.
Love it.
Listen, let's go. Y'all run, please. Let Friday be the day of Eid. And I got Bruins and Celtics the same night.
Love it. Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be dope.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's my Eid gift. Let's go.
I'm here for it. So just as we close up, man, just tell the listeners where they can find you and anything that you're getting into that's coming up for you.
Yes, and you can find me on 91.5 WMFL, host my radio show, The Shukri Wrights Show, Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. You can hear me on the Shukri Wrights podcast. You can find it on iHeartRadio and all major podcast platforms, and as well as on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube as well. You can also find me on the Believe Network, host of the Believe in the Hub of Champions podcast. Is all Boston sports, in which I talk about straight up just my thoughts, my opinions, everything. And you can find me on Twitter at Shukri Wrights. You can find me on TikTok at Shukri Wrights, same handle. Find me on Instagram at SWrightsRadio _. And yeah, that's where you can find me. And as well as stay tuned for some fire content that's coming today, starting today. It's about to be a whole movie. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming on. Like this was fun. Like I told you, this was something that you was gonna hold it down, and you did. So yeah, I'm excited for this to drop, and people to tune into this one, man. So as always, Black Lives Matter, and not just when it's convenient for you. So we are grateful. Like I said, we'll love to have you on at some point. During or even later on this season, who knows? Never know, depending on how far.
You never know how things will go.
Depending on how things go for sure. So until next time, we'll see you. Peace.
Welcome to Tuning Into Sound Wellbeing, where we harmonise your mind, body and soul. I'm Amanda, your sound therapy expert.
And I'm Stephen, the curious explorer uncovering the mysteries of sound.
Together we explore vibrations, frequencies and the power of sound therapy and tuning forks.
Discover ancient wisdom, reduce stress and tune into a healthier life. Subscribe to Tuning Into Sound Wellbeing today.
Hey, what's happening out there, everybody? This is Lawrence Ross, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my podcast, The Lawrence Ross Show.
Egomaniac.
It's a 2-hour weekly exploration into my mind. I also do sketches, celebrity impersonations.
You're out of order!
And I also do song parodies. Not too shabby for a blind guy.
Not only are you visually impaired, but you are geographically impaired.
New episodes are released every Friday. Check it out on your favorite podcasting platform or listen to it here on Society 13 on Electrocast.
Electrocast.